Welcome back. Leading an authentic life, having a personal crisis in one's life around the concept of existence. Also, taking risk in search of authenticity and getting really, really sore, but having fantastic adventures on a motorcycle. All of these things are wrapped up into one beautiful book that I am so pleased to tell you about this evening, and also to introduce you to the author of Harley and Me. This, my friends, is Bernadette Murphy. How are you?
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So great to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really fun to have this book out, and really wonderful to be here in Park City.
I feel
love
like
Park City.
I'm sort of like I'm coming back from the library. You just kind of hold on to the book that you want to read.
You can
first.
feel smart. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your life of writing, because this is creative. Let's do writing.
Okay.
Let's do your scrivenering first, and then we'll do your writing. But talk a little bit, because I know that this is far from your first time to the rodeo.
Yes.
And talk about your life's journey in the written word and getting to this one.
So this is my fourth book, and my first book, which was the bestseller of my books, was on the metaphysics of knitting. So how one goes from knitting to motorcycles is kind of crazy, but that has been the journey that my life has included. But I like to write about experiences that I have, gather information from experts, and then synthesize it all. With the knitting, I took up knitting and didn't know I would love it, and then was curious to figure out what is it doing metaphysically for me, how it's a form of meditation. And then with the motorcycle, I started to ride a motorcycle at age 48. I took a class doing research for a character in a novel.
And I loved how you wrote off well, I'm just going to take the class for research.
That's seriously, that's all it was. And then it so surprised me that I had fallen in love with this experience. When you can get that machine to move the way you want, it's like ice dancing. It felt regal and beautiful and amazing. And then I'm thinking, I'm 48 years old and I had no idea that I would love this. Right. So that propelled me to look into the neuroscience and psychology of risk-taking, and to try to understand what had happened. Was it just a midlife crisis, or was there something bigger going on? And so all the books I've written have started from a personal experience, and then I want to find out, is this normal? What does this mean? What does it say about other people, about the human experience?
Do you think that there's any connection between your vocation of writing and the continual discovery process that's necessary to produce great work, and the risk taking that you inexorably sort of sought out, if not knowledgeably sought out?
Yes, absolutely. I think that all writing is a form of risk-taking. And we, as writers, when we write stuff, especially information that's close to the bone, experiences that feel raw, you're very exposed, and it's an amazing form of risk-taking. So I think it just sort of leads to these things. In fact, at one point I interviewed a very famous psychologist who coined a whole test to figure out how risky people were. And he looked at my background and said, based on this, as a writer, as someone who had done the things I'd done, it was almost predisposed. I was almost predisposed to want to ride a motorcycle or do something, because the two are they're linked. If anyone who does something creative and artistic is taking risks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that said, there is a palpable sense that you include at the beginning of this communication about how you viewed your own life in terms of being a wife, being a mom, being safe. There were a lot of. I felt like there were a lot of words, heavy meaning words, to describe the way that you saw yourself, that is in completely stark contrast to what we're talking about and this book.
Absolutely, absolutely. My life had gotten smaller and tidier and safer as I aged, and I think that's common for almost all of us. We learn a trade, a skill, a career. We have our children. We go through whatever the stages of our life are. And then we kind of get everything put into place, and if nobody moves anything, it's going to stay that way for a long time. And my life had become like that. And there was a hankering in me for something bigger, to sort of break it open somehow. And but yeah, I lived a very sedate life. I was living in a suburb of Los Angeles. I'm a professor. I had 3 children. I drove the minivan. You know, I was the last person anyone pictured on a motorcycle, and everyone in the neighborhood was aghast.
I'm sure because of what we expected of you.
Yes, absolutely. I let them all down.
Bernadette, let's take a quick break, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the book and also about your future in the world of writing.
Great, thank you.
Bernadette Murphy is my guest. The book is Harley and Me. We will continue our conversation right after this break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. We're talking about the category of creative nonfiction in literature, which is to say, a really good story that also happens to be true. This is a story of a search for authenticity. The author is Bernadette Murphy. The book is Harley and Me, and we are back with the author. I guess now, before we go any further, are we going to get the look? Let's get the full look.
Sure. You want me
if you don't mind,
not at all. Not at all.
Mussing the hair a little bit.
Okay, so this is the leather jacket, and it's all armored, so that if I have an accident, God forbid, I'll be safe. So then we get a little more tough looking.
Exactly,
so
exactly.
We got the gloves.
We got the gloves.
And then we have
pièce de résistance.
There you go.
I like it. It's tough. Looking good.
It does muss the hair, though.
and I imagine that you must have some sense memories even putting on the helmet here in the studio. In your descriptions of every time taking it off, just being like, oh,
such relief.
Such relief.
Although I got to say, the nice thing about the full face helmet is when I'm feeling amazing joy and I'm writing, you can feel your cheeks when you smile, and it's like it reminds you that's what you're feeling right now, that there's this amazing sensation going on, and pay attention because it's pretty cool.
I want to go back one more time to this concept of authenticity. As we talked a little bit before we came on camera, it's something that I'm wrestling with in my own life and trying to understand what it really means and how to, if it's possible, to try to be more it or more that. Mm-hmm. It seems to me as though this visceral experience of sore back, aching hands, like you had to feel early on as though you were truly searching for authenticity just because of the physical reality of what you were doing, even though on some level when it gets into beautiful prose, it becomes a metaphor.
Yes, absolutely, because anytime you do something that's physical, that's very hard, we're driven for some reason to see how far we can take ourselves. What are my limits? What am I willing to put up with? How far can I go? Well, how strong am I when push comes to shove? You know, and to try to find out. And for me, some of it has to do with riding for 8 or 10 hours a day on the motorcycle on a cross-country trip where everything hurts and I'm sweaty and I'm tired, but to find out, how much backbone do I have? Not that it's always found in physical realms, but if I can find it there, maybe I can transfer it over to the other parts of my life that scare me and that I don't know if I have backbone in.
And further, your description of getting to the point where you've been riding and riding and riding and riding, but you're not sore anymore. You've made that transformation. Talk a little bit about how you were viewing that in the moment, besides, well, I feel amazing, but also, hey, I'm getting somewhere here.
The first 2 or 3 days on a cross-country trek, you're exhausted constantly. But by day 4, you start settling in. You still have some of the exhaustion, you still get headachy, get overheated, but your body has learned how to adjust to it. And you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And you can go to this wonderful meditative place that sort of your attention is so focused on what you're doing that all the chatter in the head kind of quiets down. And you just, it's very Zen-like.
Very cool. What's up next? Are you busily at work on a new?
I'm working on a novel that I started 15 years ago that has just kind of hounded me. So I'm going to go back to it and find out how much backbone I have to try to finish that. Because as far as I'm concerned, the risk-taking I've done with the motorcycling, and in this book I go ice climbing, I move to French Polynesia, I run a marathon, I do all kinds of stuff. The biggest risk for me is trying to write as authentically and truthfully as possible, and to be willing to be sort of honest in a raw way. And so that's what I want to do with this novel. That's the next big risk in my life, is to see, can I nail it, this novel.
Do you feel the vulnerability of that still?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think that's what makes it exciting, too. It's like, if the motorcycle didn't scare me anymore, it might not be as much fun. There's something about knowing this could go good or this could be a problem. You know, I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
And it's the not knowing and being willing to find out, I think, that makes me expand as a human.
And given little enough effort, you can write a bad book, so you got to work at it. You have to risk, you have to put in time in order to make something that you're pleased with before the rest of the world.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk events. You've got a couple of events taking place.
Yeah. Tomorrow night at 6, I'll be at Dolly's Bookstore here in wonderful Park City. And on Saturday, Timpanogos Harley is hosting me. We're doing a 1 o'clock ride with the Litas. The Litas is an all-women's motorcycle club. It's the largest in the world. It was founded here in Salt Lake City. So a bunch of the Litas are coming, and it'll be an all-women's ride. Then we're coming back to the dealership, and at 4 o'clock they're doing a garage party that's open to everyone. Women, men, riders, not riders, people who are interested in motorcycles. Everyone's welcome. And
bald people?
Bald people. Anyone who would like to come is welcome, and we'll have I'll be reading from the book and signing books, and we'll be just learning about motorcycles and getting to know each other.
Wonderful. And where should folks go online to find out more about Bernadette and about Harley and Me?
Bernadette-Murphy.com, and it has everything about me in the book and all kinds of essays and links to my other books as well.
So great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on this wonderful literary accomplishment.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you again here soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Right. Bernadette-Murphy.com. Find out more about Harley and Me, as well as Bernadette's other works of literature. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk a little bit about the weather, because I don't know, it's looking pretty crazy out there about now. And lots more music from Oscar and Julia. Please stay tuned, because I love you.